Welcome to Mother, the show where we can explore our inner mothers to actualize our greatest selves. Through interviews with incredible guests, live coaching sessions, and my own experiences, we're going to dive deep into embracing feminine values and reparenting ourselves. So be prepared to show up, hold space, and be mothered in a way you never have before, but have always needed. It's time to rewrite the mother code. Well, hello, and welcome to Mother, Rewriting the Mother Code with me, Dr. Gertrude Lyons. I am super excited to introduce you to my guest today, Ruth Minnick. Welcome, Ruth.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And for many, many reasons. So first I'll share personally, Ruth is someone that has played important roles in my life, one of which was being one of the attendees at my doctoral seminar that kind of kicked off everything with rewriting the mother code. And then has had her own journey in that arena, which I'm hoping she shares, aspects of that. And also in women's leadership training together. We've been in growth. We have been in growth environments together, and it's all, I feel just very moved and touched. But in addition to my personal, and I'm sure it won't take long for you to discover why I love having Ruth in my life. But Ruth currently, just to give a few particulars, is a psychotherapist, mother, and artist. She integrates creative approaches to design, healing pathways for children, adults, and families that she works with. She integrates mindfulness, body-based therapy, internal family systems, breathwork, play, CBT, among many other practices to promote healing. Ruth has her own, is it your own business or is it a co-business with your husband? Sorry,
co-ownership.
Co-ownership of a beautiful and thriving therapy practice. But prior to all this, she was huge in the interior design world and a businesswoman, working for companies and as an entrepreneur. So wildly successful in so many arenas. Okay. So what I haven't mentioned, and one of the things we're going to talk about, is she's also now an author, and she's authored 2 children's books, The Little Book of Big Feelings. And oh my gosh, Ruth, I just blanked. What's our second book? My Little Worry. My Little Worry. I was afraid to say I was going to say something wrong. My Little Worry. So she's going to talk about those too, because these are, they're for children, but really they're for all of us. So we get to hear about that. So welcome, Ruth. And I'd love for you to just open up first off and just kind of share, any aspect of your journey that I touched on, and, we'll kind of get going from there. But obviously you've mothered a lot in your life and you continue to, and why don't you just start talking?
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate that introduction. Yes, I got the pleasure of meeting you in my early 20s, my mid 20s, wow. And had been doing a lot of amazing coaching work. And when you were in your doctorate, it was a pivotal point in my life where I had been just post-divorce in my 30s and kind of in this space of what is my life like? What am I going toward? What am I leading toward? And, how do I feel about being a mother? And I would say, in my mid 20s is when I lost my own mother. Mm-hmm. And so I had a little bit of a sore spot around becoming a mother without a mother and a lot of ambivalence. And so mm-hmm. your doctoral work really helped me be in that question, be with my own insecurity, ambivalence, and really a lot of pain around my life not going the way I thought it would go. And, if I had decided to become a mother, I knew it would be later in life. And what would that be like? And could I be? And all these questions. And it was painful to be with. And ultimately, I did determine I wanted to be a mother, and I got to learn how I mother everywhere I go as a woman. And I think those are some of the things that really have supported me to honor the ways I mother and the ways that I'm drawn to mother and become one of the most meaningful things in my life.
Beautiful. And you mentioned kind of pivotal points, in your 20s, your mom passing and, and then, oh my gosh, now I'm in my 30s. Where am I headed? Where am I going? And you are now married,
I am married.
and you have a daughter. Do you want to share a little bit about, that aspect of your journey and what, because I know you did that very mindfully and, with a lot of consciousness. So it isn't just like, yeah, I found a guy and, and had a baby. There's a lot more to it than that. So I'd love to share.
Yeah, I think the whole dating process for me was learning because I did marry the first guy I ever really loved. I married my high school sweetheart and we had a good time together. We had our moment. It ultimately didn't work. And, I'm at a point I wish them well and, all those things, but I was very hurt and sore after that and didn't have a lot of understanding of what I wanted or who I was and who I wanted to be with another partner. And I think dating multiple people, learning to date, learning to ask hard questions, putting myself more authentically out there and really seeing who showed up at the end of it after I was really me. And I met a lot of great people and a lot of people that were not great. And, but I think I was curious and exploring and really putting it out there to see what is it I want in a partner, and when I found my husband, it really struck me like there was such a significant difference. I knew what I wanted by then. I knew the hard questions I wanted to know. I knew, like, oh, you've been married. Why'd you get divorced? Like, what's your part in it? What's your ownership? Like, let's fail forward. Let's look at this and know what we're getting into. And I found someone who really was a match, who was really willing to push me. We pushed each other in our own growth work. He pushed me into couples therapy, like early on in dating. And I'm like, no.
And isn't it funny? Like, cause it's not like you weren't doing growth work. It's not like you weren't like working really hard on yourself, but you hadn't done that. And it was in a different, arena or space. So I think that's, something really important to name. And is that we still have our spots where it's challenging, right? To keep growing or someone wants to go at it from a different way.
Oh, and I was hard too. I was hard to get to know. I was very closed off. I was really, working toward building trust. And I think that having someone to push me and be willing to kind of stand up to me and say, hey, you say you're about personal development and growth work, like show up at me at couples counseling. I know we've only dating 4 months. Let's do it.
That's when you really knew you had met your match, right?
Okay, he's the one.
I love it. Well, and I think I don't know. I guess I just want to underline because sometimes when you've been spending time working on yourself, if it kind of feels like the field narrows in some ways. Like it's not just any guy out there. It's like, okay, how was that? Navigating? Because I think sometimes I've worked with women who are like, there's no one out there who's done, and it's. Clearly there are, people, but how did you navigate that?
I had a rule set by my coaches and support to really date widely and to date outside my comfort zone and to try everything. And I did. I tried, dates with a lot of people and I gave a 2-date rule. I was very generous, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I gave them, a chance to goof it off a little bit and then to see what's really there. And I did actually meet a lot of great people because of that. I didn't necessarily go to, oh, I'm so attracted to this person or, oh, I love his job resume or he makes the right kind of money. And if I had done that, I wouldn't have met the great people I did. I will say, like in meeting Steve, he was, living with other adults, so that was far, far away outside the city. So he had roommates as an adult and that's kind of can be like not sure.
Yeah.
He was a teacher. Like for some people that would be like, well, oh, they're not making enough or, oh, they don't live on their own or, like immediately off the bucket. But here's an amazing human who's happens to be going to school for a third master's, and he's in a different time in his life in transition. And anybody could give some insight and like really look at what's there. There are many great people there that get overlooked because of certain write-offs. And I refuse to.
And
do
our
that.
judgments are, our initial, I love that. So, well, one, you had coaches that were telling you that, or recommending, and that you listened, right? That's kind of one of the deals with coaching, right? We have the choice to, try out the things that are being presented to us or not. Yeah. And it sounds like this one, benefited you hugely for sure. Well, as you were saying that, I'm remembering things that one particular thing that I know about you, and I'm just I don't know how it's relevant, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Well, I'm thinking about you and your feminine journey, right? Like, and feminine meaning you're, honoring of feminine values, you're, acclimating, more to that, because I know that's been a big part of your journey too. Cause all of a sudden I was remembering like Ruth has done Ironmans, I'm struck with, how I know there have been ways that you've, kind of lived in a masculine world, like achieving, everything from physical. And I'll say again, running an Ironman. Was it 1 or 2?
I did 1. I've done 17
marathons. How many?
17.
Yeah. 17 marathons, and Ironman, and, very go for it in your business. But what was that like for you to kind of start integrating even more? It's not like you weren't womanly also in ways, but what would you say about that?
I would say my journey in womanhood has been from, I think, early on in my career. Around the time that you met me, I was working for a design firm, and I was a junior designer and very much saw myself as a junior, and very kind of, I had the pieces of both like operating as a little girl, like in the big world. And then also trying to be, for lack of a better word, my dad, like trying to like hold both these pieces. Like, let me perform, let me get the number, let me try and get myself perceived really well and chase these things. And also I feel really little. And I think there's a womaning of me. I don't know how else to say that, of like really looking at different spaces in my career where trying to fit in like a corporate sales environment and big global world and meeting with CFOs and that sort of thing. And like, okay, who am I in these spaces? Like, I see the trend to have me be more masculine. I see like, that's kind of seems like what's supposed to make it here. Yeah. And working into, growing myself up, like having a voice, speaking out, but also developing the softness, a softer edge and the context of things. And that's the value. I do have a big gift in a lot of feminine aspects around seeing beauty in things, holding space, really connecting with others. And my career has kind of taken some interesting jumps. Like I was an interior designer, but I was sales driven, right? So there's kind of like the, for lack of a better word, masculine, feminine balance, like pull to both sides of, let me make the number, let me get enough clients, let me get the sale, but let me create a beautiful space. Let me connect to these people. Let me make a home, and then in the corporate environment in design, it was more like, let me get the big project, let me meet the people. But ultimately through it all, like what I've found, and this is my feminine journey, is the things I value the most are the relationship, are knowing the story, knowing their history, what makes up who they are, how they are. And finding myself in this like sales driven world, I didn't fit. And I really wanted to have more of what I really love, which is really what led me to becoming a therapist.
Good. I was going to say, I think this will naturally lead into how you made your career move.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about that?
Well, I think it probably started in my design career. I was in vulnerable spaces. I was in people's homes. I was with people as they were navigating divorce and going out on their own after being married several years and grieving. I was with people as they were confronted by problems with hoarding and letting go and loss, and people who were challenged with their money and finances and couples fighting. And I'm in the space and I'm creating the space, and I needed a lot of extra help. That's how I got into coaching. in my master's in coaching mostly was like, I need some help here. I don't know how to talk to these people and like what to do here. But I loved it so much. And I loved being in those conversations and supporting people as they were navigating these transitions. And, you know, I think I followed the next move. And this is kind of like, you know, getting the higher pay, getting the bigger business in the masculine perspective and like getting that, letting that feed me in my career, but it didn't feel fulfilling. I'm going out meeting for these projects and there's the number behind me with, you know, my bosses like, get the number, get the sale. And I just want to talk to the people and know why they care.
No, I get it. I love that. Yeah, keep going.
What's driving them? Why is this going on? You know, I'm meeting with people about business, but I want to know, who are they in their lives? Who is their family? You know, why do they do what they do? How did they come to do what they do? And at some point I kind of hit that decision point of, this isn't for me. I want to just do that. I just want to be with people and be part of their growth and journey and to be with them as they cry and figure out transitions and navigate depths of grief and loss and tragedy and be able to hold them from a therapeutic perspective. And that takes me into like the mothering that I've learned from you and to be a psychological parent, to really be able to mother and love everyone. Because ultimately I do. I love people. I care. And someone sitting in front of me, I just get to care and love them.
Hi, I'm so excited to share with you my 2024 Spring Equinox Self-Mothering Retreat that's happening this March 2024. And I would love for you not only to consider it, but to attend. But in considering it, hey, just knowing that you would be leaving cold weather, if that's the space that you're in, and coming down to just magnificently beautiful, warm, nourishing place of Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Zihuatanejo meaning land of the goddess women, and coming to really take time for yourself. Okay. And that I am learning more and more isn't just a nice thing to do or something extravagant or something selfish. It's essential. And I really want you to take it seriously, to consider, you know, just think about what would it take for me to go. It's a 5.5-day retreat, getting from where you are, getting there, landing there, and then being in a space that is all about you. It's all about nourishing you. It's all about tuning into you, using everything around us, the nature, the food, the beautiful people, the rituals, ceremonies. I bring it, you know, we really bring it. And we go deeper and deeper as the days go on, and we release, we let go, we bring in what is nourishing, what is empowering, what is that space of just really divine feminine energy. And we do it in the community of women. It's not for everyone. I will be honest, you know, if the idea of leaving and not making it work, or it's just too hard, not for you. If the idea of, you know, spending that amount of time inwardly focused and going to that level of self-awareness doesn't sound like something you're willing to do or put the time and energy into, then it's not for you. And it's good to know that, right? So this is for people who are serious about what it means to mother themselves, what it means to take time for ourselves, and that gift and what that gift can bring to us. It was originally right after my fall retreat. It filled right up. But now some people, it turns out, are not able to come. So I do have a handful of openings. And if you're listening to this and you're willing to take that step, please reach out to me. We can do a discovery call, or you can put a deposit down. I would love that. And you can do that by going to my website, www.drgertrudelyons, DrGertrudelyons.com. Go to events, and there you go. It'll all be there. There's a beautiful page there for you to explore. I look forward to hearing from you and then seeing you on my spring retreat.
That's beautiful, Ruth. Thank you. I'm feeling loved sitting across, you know, the Zoom with you right now, and just you sharing your story. It's really beautiful, and it's evoking for me, like, yeah, like I get that. Like I made career moves similarly from a economic analyst, to coach for the same reason. It's like, I don't, like, I guess I can crunch numbers and do that and create value in that way. But I really like being with the people, and guiding them on their journey. And I think both of us can say this because we've seen how effective it is for ourselves. Right. And I know, it's not just a good idea. It's something I know you've benefited from, and I have immensely as well, like doing our own work. So then wanting to support us. And I also do know you have a very successful, even though new, you and your husband, your practice and business is booming from what I understand. So I think people are feeling very loved.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like I'll just back up and speak to the journey, really feeling so appreciative for everyone who has supported me along the way and helped me on my own personal journey and discovering who I was and being with me and, really understanding grief and loss in my family and, loss all around with just different people passing and losing a child myself. And there's a lot of things that I've gone through and had some really amazing support. And I want to just keep giving that forward.
Yeah. No, here. Well, we're bouncing around a little, but I know this, but I think it's really valuable if you don't mind sharing, so you found Steve after that, very mindful and conscious journey that you went on with there. And then when the two of you got married, having children wasn't like a definite, right? Like, and that was its own journey. Do you mind sharing, what that was?
Yeah. I think I had been married before, and while I was married for about 6 years, I hadn't not tried to get pregnant. There was not a necessarily intentionally trying, but I wasn't on birth control when I was married before, and I hadn't gotten pregnant. And so there was a little bit of fear that maybe I couldn't have children and that it wouldn't happen. And I think letting myself want it felt too vulnerable. And, I got married in my late 30s and it's kind of like that level of like sitting with that vulnerability was hard for me, both of like, can I have children at this age? Can I have children at all? And I'm not sure what kind of mother I'll be. A lot of things, and what will that be like? And my mom had a hard time with us and we lost my brother after my mom passed. And so like, there's just like a little bit of fear in like, what kind of parent will I be?
Yeah.
Deal with like losing a child ever. And could I be with this kind of life? Am I ready to sign up for this? So it was deciding to let myself be vulnerable to it not happening and to try and to want it. And we did, and we had Evelyn, and it was amazing. And she's now 3.5. And then we did try again and got pregnant again, which was amazing. And found out at some point in the pregnancy that, our child would have some sort of genetic challenge. We didn't know what. And that was a whole other process. And being with as a mother, like, what will that be like? And how do we feel about that? And, wow, okay, fears coming true to some degree. But then thinking about it and being with it as a couple and working with our couples therapist. And we thought we were the perfect parents for that. We can handle that. It'll be amazing. We'll absolutely love this little being no matter what happens. And we had this amazing like space of like, we're ready, we're here, we're researching, we're preparing for you. And, around 20 weeks in, we found out she didn't have a heart and we lost her.
Yeah.
It's been a really hard time to be with.
Yeah.
And then we lost Steve's mom like a couple months later. It was just like, geez. So that word mother really is tender for me because I feel like I lose moms in my life and I lose, in some mother, I feel like I've felt some loss.
No, it's a big loss, especially. Well, thank you, Ruth, for just even, being so present and, with the pain of that loss. And I just want to name it, losing a child anywhere during a pregnancy is yet another arena that women are just supposed to be quiet about. We're just supposed to get over it. There isn't a huge space to, mourn and grieve and have these feelings. So I love that you keep, allowing it to be present for you. And maybe always, that you always will be. I know that, the pain can lessen some, but that doesn't matter. That was what a gift that child gave to you, and on the other side, I do believe that, spiritually, psychically, like you mothered child brought so much wisdom to you and, so much to you and Steve in its short little life.
It did. She really did. She really had an impact on us in just helping us be with, different aspects of life and the parenting challenges that could be, ahead, and learning and accepting and being with that space and creating a room for her and our family and how we would need to grow to measure up.
Yeah.
Her. And then to be with her and hold her as she was gone.
Yeah. Hugely, hugely vulnerable and tender. And I want to kind of keep that space, but it's leading me right to that, you also conceived and gave birth to not one, but now 2 books, in these arenas of mothering. And, I think they happen for a reason, and they're there for the gifts they are for you that then, you get to share with the world. Is it okay if we shift to that, or is there anything else you want to say about?
I think it's part of the process, in the releasing and grieving, tuning into not only my daughter that we have and my little self and the clients that I'm with. The first book I wrote for Evelyn, our 3-year-old, and it kind of came out one day just flowing as a poem. And I started drawing pictures on it. And I actually wrote it on my mother's birthday. Goes back to the more mothering and mother.
Yeah.
And it was in the wake of this grief that I've had all this creative energy and that I've been tuning into, using that space to create something new, using the ache in my womb to birth something, literally. And the first book was so fun. I wrote the poem, in my phone, and then I had pulled a bunch of computer paper out to write it down and draw some pictures, and I left it on the counter. And Evelyn got a hold of all these little folded pages and started drawing all over them.
Oh my gosh.
And I went to sit down to start drawing the pictures. And I'm like, actually, that's perfect. And I drew the pictures within the scratches and scribbles and things that she made and made it my story. And it was so fun. She sat next to me one weekend because I literally wrote it in a weekend, and we were deciding the pictures and coloring. And it was so much fun. And so that was the first book, and I taped it together and was reading it to her, and she loved it. And then I read it to my staff and they loved it. And they all were like, hey, you should publish this. You should put it out there. And I took that invitation after reluctantly. I needed a lot of push.
Yeah. Well, I think I know, or I'd have my own reasons why I might be reluctant, but what was the reluctance?
I don't know. It was shy. It was just like something I just wrote for us and, put it out there just to explain emotions and to go on a journey with my daughter about what it is to be with the big feelings of a 3-year-old. And what is it like to be 3 and have all these emotions that I have no idea how to explain. And mommy and daddy don't quite get it either, even though we're therapists. It's like, and we've done our work. It's terrifying to be with and to explain it and to be with it, but I think, to my staff's point and my husband's point, it really is and can be a tool to explain the experience both to the adults and the kids and what this is like, and explain in a way that's understandable.
Yeah. I saw reviews and stuff, but what have been some of the comments about it? And what have you heard after, were any of your big fears? Because one of the feelings I'm sure is fear. Any of those that you're afraid of, were they realized? What are some of the feelings or beliefs that you broke in doing this? That's a better way to put that question.
Oh, that it wasn't good enough, or it wasn't appropriate, or, that it's silly and people won't get it, or my drawings are too this or that, or I don't even know, poor belief, not enough, not okay. Who do you think you are?
Yes. Good. And did any of those come true? Were any of... Okay. But isn't that great? It's one of the reasons, even when you go back to I didn't know if I'd be a good enough mother. I didn't know if I'd know what I was doing. And, sometimes, it's important to discern those, but then you just step into it and, we discover. And if I may even get feedback. There may be areas that I obviously can still learn and grow in this, but that's okay. And then how much you learn and how much you've learned and the breaking of those beliefs is just a huge part of it anyway. And now this gift out in the world, that I know anybody who buys the book is definitely benefiting from. So then what led you to write the second book?
The second book is really for me. And so I think I've been on a journey with these last 3 books. I'm actually on book number 4. I'm literally working on, have been about sharing to some degree my own journey. And so the second book is about anxiety and worry. And in my family, I was always, and it happens maybe in most families, I was called the worry wart. I was definitely an anxious little kid. I worried about things. I had fears about a lot of stuff and I didn't know how to explain it. And I thought maybe it was wrong or bad too, to have all these worries, but it definitely was big in my life. And I wanted to create a better story about it and create something that I could externalize for both my clients and for kids. And even for Evelyn, it's a little too old for Evelyn right now.
Yeah. But what is the age range for that you would say?
The age range for this one, I would say would probably be 4 and up, maybe 5 and up. And so at 3, it's just outside her. She still likes the book more than she likes the monster, but she's starting to learn it too and understand. Like she asks a lot of questions when we read it, which is good. But I wrote it around like those big anxiety worries, like how worry can get out of control. Sometimes it can feel like a really big monster. And in the book, the character learns to love the monster, to befriend them, to not let the monster control her, to be friends with the monster. And good friends don't control you. But there's learning about friendship and what good boundaries are. And then also she learns to take her worry along with her and to play with worry. Worry gets to be with her. And when worry's a little too out of control, he goes back in the pocket and and she learns to face her fears and to be brave and still have worry. She's developing comfort being with anxiety. And then she teaches worry some tools as she's learning them, how to be able to take some breaths, to get comfort, to soothe, to be present, to notice things around her, to be looking at what's true and what's not true. So separating and like really looking as that worry as a part or like a little monster that can be externalized, that can be loved, but it isn't who she is and it isn't necessarily true.
That's beautiful. I love that you're putting it in this language. And I know I kind of joked about it at the beginning, but I think this is kind of how we all need to learn it. Right. And I know there's a lot of like really good books on anxiety and, and studies and very adult, written, but it really comes down to this. And these, like you said, I was an anxious kid. I had worries. And that's what you're tapping into is that, we got to tend to that little girl who had those in a way that she can understand or, how as an adult am I just otherwise supposed to do this? I think that's brilliant, I hope we market the book, to children and adults.
Yeah,
as best as possible.
I think that'll be my next wave of how to figure out how to do that. But I mean, as a therapist who sees mostly adults, I mean, I'm working with their inner children. And so this is very much for that space. And my biggest hope is that any adult that buys this potentially for their children is that they're able to take this for themselves. And that's maybe my sneaky therapist bite of trying to get to the parents as well and have them learn to love their parts and love and self-soothe, all of those pieces.
I love that. Yeah. And I was thinking like, we actually worked with it, talking about your fears and worries of doing the book. Right. And then, and the beliefs and we, you soothed yourself and minimized. Yeah. And if we let them get big and I know you've worked with, and I often have on my mind, Jill Bolte Taylor's work with the 4 characters. And, your worry monster is such like a great character to, personification of character 2. I know I'm referring to something that if you're just listening to this, but I have another podcast on Jill Bolte Taylor in June, but and I think you're pointing out something that's really important because I think we often think like we got to get rid of that worry or somehow we're going to do something and we'll never have it again. But what you're talking about is befriending it and soothing it. And, its voice is sometimes important. It doesn't mean that it should be silenced. It's just the microphone for too long or the volume's turned up too high. And, we need to bring in other voices so we can have, a powwow and meeting about it.
Right. It's like my little Evelyn, my little 3-year-old, like the worry can get really loud and really consistent. And sometimes it's, for me to step in and say, okay, sweetie, I hear you really want that. That's true. Or you're really afraid of that. That's right. And we still need to do this. Let's sit and take a minute. Let's have a breath, and let's soothe. And I think, in the clients that I work with, that's a lot of the work we do too, is we are looking at those parts and learning to love them, expand the ability to hold them, to mother those parts of ourselves that really feel out of control or big or too much, and to love them in.
Well, and so that made me just think about, I want to underline everything that we're talking about here with what you're doing and then writing the book about it. And the first one was kind of for Evelyn, your daughter. This whole process and what we're talking about is all about reparenting ourselves and how we can grow up with our children, how we can, nurture ourselves, heal old wounds, find, more ways to take care of ourselves as we give our children. So it's like, Evelyn needs this book on feelings, right? Like it's like, maybe, this process of putting it, artistically and creatively and, flowing from me, it was a healing for me too. Right.
I'll speak to that really quick. It's not a book for Evelyn. I mean, it was for Evelyn, but it was like, wow, these feelings are so big. These feelings are so big as a mom. Wow, these feelings are so big. Good job. And I am afraid. This is so great. I'm afraid of these feelings. Like to be like certain emotions are, but also like, she's so strong-willed. It's scary. She's so feisty. And okay, level up, mama. Let's be with these. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, no, 100%. I love that. And, and it's one of the myths, that even back in the seminar, but, that I put out there is like, we've somehow been programmed to believe like we shouldn't have our emotions with our children, or that somehow, and, we'll make the distinction, which I know you know very well, but say there's responsible and irresponsible expression of our emotions, right? But responsibly expressed and authentically and, not directed at the child is like the best thing for them, I think. And for everyone involved, right? That one, we're showing it's okay to have them. Yeah, mommy has emotions too, right? And we're not stifling them, but we're learning how to navigate them, how to, have them. And in certain social settings, we might need to like quiet them for a little bit, but then we're going to have them later. I mean, there's just so many more ways to navigate that than, I think I know for me and many of us, like just emotions just weren't okay. So that I believed, well, then it's not going to be okay to have them as a mother because that will scare them, or I don't know. We had all sorts of mistaken beliefs about that.
Well, even being really frustrated or really mad and afraid, those moments where it feels like, whoa, my emotions just got really big, while being with her really big emotions. And maybe that wasn't fully responsible, and being able to be with that. And like, as a mom, like that's where I crossed that space. And then to go back and say, mommy, sorry, mommy got really angry. And that's why I yelled so harshly. And mommy was scared, I got afraid to like have those moments of being with that. That's all those places to stretch and grow and relearn and express as I'm learning to be with my big feelings as a mom.
I know. Well, and I think what you're saying there with the redo or, the acknowledgement is repair, and that it's possible to repair when we've had a breach like that, where it's like, okay, she was getting more of the charge that wasn't about the thing I'm angry about that she did. It was like, from something that happened earlier with Steve or, at work. And she just happens, to be right in my face right now. And she's exactly. And we can explain that. It's not about like, feeling guilt. It's a way I think when moms like feel guilty about stuff like that, it's like, well, you can acknowledge it, share it, and they get it. They get that kind of honest communication. And I think sometimes we don't give our kids enough credit to what they're capable of emotionally.
It's really incredible. Like those moments are such a repair for my little girl when I have the breach and I've gone, I've had a moment and I apologize to Evelyn and I explain, what happened. And she comes back and she's like, it's okay, mommy. I love you. and she comes and hugs me. And it's like,
Right.
my little girl's like, okay, I can have big feelings and I can learn.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, I love that. Okay. Well, we've covered a lot of territory. Is there anything about the books that we haven't covered that you'd like to say about them? Then we're going to find out how people can get a hold of you. And then I have one last question.
Sure. Let's see. I think the books, particularly the second book, especially, there are a lot of tools in the process. And so they are meant to be as a guide and to be almost used as a workbook if wanted to go back to. I have a little section in the back to like name what you learned so far. So it is to be talked about. And that's my hope with all of my books, is to have that. I have a future book that's coming out.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you ready to like name what the 3 and 4 are? And we could be anticipating.
My Partly Cloudy Day is the next one. And it's about depression. It's about the blues, I will say, and in my opinion, having experienced it as a kid, kids have the blues, they don't always know how to talk about it. It could be considered depression to some degree. And it's the same thing with your worry parts, that you can have really cloudy thinking that can really take you down. And it can be really hard as a kid navigating school and navigating these feelings without a way to explain it. So this book is meant to be read with a parent and to understand that it does go through the real journey of how dark it can get and explain it in a way that feels appropriate. And then it has a journey of getting lighter. And the character goes through a point where they start to have a decision. I don't want to be stuck like this anymore. I don't want this to be it. And working toward hope and using the decision and hope as the way through. And then to learning how to, again, take that sad part, and to be with it and to learn tools with it and know that it's a partly cloudy world sometime. And that's okay too. There's tools for that. And there's materials that I'm, weaving in throughout the process to help have a state change, how to shake it out,
Great. Oh, beautiful. I love this. I get to watch your face, and whether this shows up in the videogram or not, like just how it comes to life for you and how much you're glowing and radiating as you share about this. It's really meaningful. Did you want to name what book number 4 is?
Working
title.
And Trouble with the capital T. And it's externalizing the part of getting in trouble. Like it's like being able to that trouble part, the mischievous part. And this book is really, it's the parents and kids journey, because it's a parenting journey in this book as well, where the kid is getting into a lot of quote unquote trouble, but they're really just trying to getting independence and explore and try things, but maybe in a way that makes mommy and daddy scared. So mommy and daddy have a point where they talk to the little kid about how mommy and daddy are being pushed to grow too, and that they understand that she really wants to grow and explore. And so they learn how to have trouble together as a family, but it's safe trouble, good trouble.
Nice. I love it. What a gift. I love these. I love that these are going to be available. I want everyone to read them. And access these spaces for all of us. So thank you. Thank you for overcoming, your fears, your mistaken beliefs to put these out in the world. And you have quite a big family, quite a big growing family.
I do.
I know. I love it. Okay. So how can people find you, reach you for any and all, the book, you in your practice, or, just want to touch base with you?
Yeah. So our practice is called Living Well Psychotherapy. So that's livingwellpsychotherapy.com. I have my own website also. You can find the books on my website, ruthminnick.com. And I'm also on Amazon. So if you wanted to go and see, my books are available on Kindle and in paperback. Book 3 will probably be hardcover for those that want a hardcover. So yeah, that's where I am right now.
And those are all, as always, those links and everything to that will be in the show notes, but I like to hear them spoken out loud. All right. Last question that I'm going to ask you to be with, which is, I ask all my guests at the end of the show, what does rewriting the mother code mean to you?
I think it's a new way to look at motherhood. It's a new way to be with emerging motherhood and letting that unfold, letting that be a process. It gives more freedom to explore. I feel like what I can speak to is more of my process with you and creating this space to allow all of it to be there, all of the fears, all the challenges, all these things to just exist in the space and let my vulnerability come through. It's a birthing process in and of itself.
Thank you. I love all these answers. And so beautiful. Well, it's always hard to wrap up because I keep going, and especially with you, Ruth. But thank you so much. Thanks for bringing your full self. Thanks for what you're doing in the world. Thanks for being someone that's, really important and special in my life.
Thank you for all the ways you've contributed to me, which is quite a bit in getting me to mother and to be with my mothering, and also for the honor to be on your show, and appreciate you so much. Love you.
You too. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for choosing yourself and taking the time to listen to this podcast. As always, please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother. Subscribe to Mother. It helps other people who need this message, aka all women, well, actually everybody, men included, find it. I'm honored to have you on this journey in mothering yourself. Remember, change is uncomfortable, but it's beautiful, and it starts with us. And if you can't wait until next week's episode, follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Dr. Gertrude Lyons or at my website, drgertrudelyons.com. I'll see you next time.